right, welcome to the 2021 Back Pocket Video Game Awards for Excellence in Video Games, as voted on by us, the hosts of the Back Pocket 2021 Video Game Awards for Excellence in Video Games. I'm Nick.
I'm Steph.
I'm Gus.
And I'm Peter.
And today we are talking about the not-so-excellent video games. Today's category is Cancelled After Release, 2021's Most Disappointing Game, which some could say, like, why have a downer category as part of this? But I like to think it's a celebration of the games that let us down.
It's clearing the crap out of the bottom so we know what we're never going to come back and talk about as well. Just getting this out of the way.
Yeah.
Just so
And everything,
you know,
it's up from here.
none of these things will ever come up again.
I like it too because I feel like I've had time to really stew on these and why I'm so disappointed in them. So I'm looking forward to just venting.
And get angry.
Yeah.
And to tell the games...
I'm going to push stuff over.
To tell the games we're not angry. We're just disappointed.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're going to do. And
Don't flip
I
the
think
table,
that
Steph.
now we've each picked 2 games that disappointed us this year, and I will say that I think that Steph, you're going to start us off. I think you picked the game that should be the poster child for this category for the rest of time.
Yes. For me, I think 12 minutes was a big letdown, obviously for all of us. I think, especially for such a long development time, like when I first saw the trailer for that, we were on screenplay, I think.
We were.
That was how long ago it was.
How does it take so long to fuck something up so well?
so intensely. And I think, the idea of a time loop in a narrative game isn't new, but I was very excited about this kind of top-down view, the mystery around it, and then we saw these huge names attached to it. Like, it just had this recipe for, like, incredible, unique, gripping storytelling game of the season. And it ended up just being a very, I would say, quite ridiculous story that was told in a way that was, A, problematic, and B, like, not that interesting.
Yeah, poorly done. Like, poorly executed and really awful in parts. Like, I just think thematically a very... and obviously it's going to be
game.
like, full spoilers for all these categories, but like offensive when it comes to incest, when it comes to
Mental health. And Yep.
rape, domestic violence,
Yeah.
like all these things
Yeah.
that are actually built in with the idea that these are like casual mechanics that get executed or story points that are kind of like supposed to be twisty and actually just come across as just like...
It's also just, it's such a weird story to want to tell. Do you know what I mean? When you have a platform like that to create something really unique and exciting, and you're sort of deciding what kind of story you want to put out into the world, who would gravitate towards that one? It's so weird.
Yeah.
And I think also, we had a couple of other time loop games this year. We had Deathloop, we had The Lost City.
Forgotten City.
Yep.
And while Deathloop was more actiony, Forgotten City was, I think, a really great example of a narrative time loop game done really, really well, where it didn't feel like we were kind of getting bogged down in the repetition of the time loop. And you were learning something new every time, and you were kind of really amazed by the subtle changes that you were affecting on the world.
Yeah.
Whereas in 12 minutes, I found myself getting kind of frustrated by doing the same stuff over and over, and then putting the thing in the coffee cup, and then having, I forgot to close the door, and now she's shitty, and I have to go back in. Like, that kind of stuff really started to make it. But I was so convinced that the story was going to knock me over that I was like pushing through it, being like, no, this is leading up to something incredible. Yeah.
And like it felt so limiting gameplay-wise that you could only interact with so few things that again, that's where my mind went, was to, well, that means that they've got a really focused idea of how all these things come together. And it's like, no, some of that stuff was just arbitrary and not useful anyway.
Especially having, like, you're right, it's squandered potential in the sense that the idea of a time loop opens up infinite possibilities. Therefore, how do you control that in a game design setting? And in this case, it's like, well, we're going to keep it to a very, very small apartment. And so in my mind, originally seeing all the lead up to this game, I thought, what a wonderful way to just keep you in there with all these options of things to mess with, all these variables, all these things that can go in multiple different ways that can lead to so many different results. And I'm with you, Pete. It felt very much like, there's realistically like a few things in the fridge, a light switch that's buggy. Like, it felt, for me, I was really disappointed with that. I thought there was much more potential to really mess with the sandbox of a single room or a room
because it's supposed to be the point of a time loop is that you're doing something over and over again to learn new things.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be that onion thing.
Yeah.
And this felt like an incredibly small onion. Yeah. Like, it was like a 2-layered onion, and the middle layer was incest.
And then on top of that, oh god. On top of that, like I think just simplifying it down to imagine a story based around it's the night your wife or partner gets murdered. How do you stop that from happening? Like that's a really driving sort of motivation, and there can be factors around that, but the factors that they throw in for this just felt so muddied and so like obscure and so like by the time I got to the end, I was trying so hard to focus on how this actually played out linearly in my head, and I still never got around to it. I was still like, it had such logic.
Yeah.
I thought I remember I kept thinking that I'd missed something because
Yeah.
I was like, I was confused by the ending, and I was like, surely that can't be it. And then once I kind of worked it through, and I think we talked about it, Peter, I was just like, really?
Yeah.
That's the kind of message of the story?
To me, it was that like the thing that really rubbed me the wrong way about it was that it was underwhelming, and then it felt like the game was gloating about how clever it was by the end of it as well. Like it had just pulled off some magnificent feat of
Yeah.
like, oh, this was all just like part of
This
your
is gonna blow their
therapy
minds.
session. It's like it was just tripe, you know, it was awful.
And also does the thing. I got in my head, the game is so much about banging your sister that I forgot how repetitive the gameplay was, that I spent so much time like hiding in a cupboard or stabbing my wife. Like, and I think that it does the other cardinal sin with any kind of twist storytelling, which in a game, which the twist comes along and it's not the culmination of it. It's then like, okay, you need to keep playing through this and sort of figure out the rest of this. But the reveal happened, and then I remember doing another 4 or 5 loops of going, oh, I haven't quite said the right thing to get the next part of this. So
Yes,
now
yeah.
I've all the impact, even though it was a bad twist, the impact of it has been totally lost because I'm just hearing that reveal over and over again. Like, it should have stopped me from doing the first half of the game. Why am I still doing the first half of the game? Like, loop me from that part now.
It was so annoying because there were times when when you have to replay a section in any video game and you've done it so many times that you start making stupid mistakes because you're sick of doing it.
Yeah, because you're just rushing.
I was doing that, and then I would do something in the wrong order, and then I'd have to start all over again, and I'd get so frustrated by that.
Yeah.
And I know that this is a very small thing as well because we have such incredible actors, performing in this game, which was really exciting. But I was annoyed that they got Daisy Ridley to be one of the voice actors and then made her do an American accent.
And James
Well, both of
McAvoy.
James McAvoy.
Oh, and James McAvoy.
Yeah.
And James McAvoy is
It's like-
arguably like far worse. Like she has hints of her character. You can hear her. He is recognizable in not, I would say.
It could just be anyone.
He
Yeah.
was such a generic voice in that.
Like Willem Dafoe has a really unique voice, so regardless of what accent he does, maybe that would be fine. But like, I feel like Daisy Ridley isn't good enough of an actor to like make her do an accent that could be anyone. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel
Be
like
Daisy
the
Ridley.
value of having her would have the Daisy Ridley's voice.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And her accent and her speaking accent. So she just kind of became generic American and lost the value of having her as a voice actor.
There's a lot of odd choices.
I bypassed the incest.
Can I also
Will is losing his shit.
Can I just get a show of hands of everyone who made the decision to stab their wife?
Second loop.
I mean,
Yeah, like, pretty much
Statistically,
right.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
okay, but like, the way you said
Was
that,
this some weird
Hang
sort of
on,
like?
No.
Did you just throw all men under the bus
Yeah.
on this episode?
way you
Look,
phrase
not
that.
all men stabbed their wife in that video. But the 3 of us did.
Sorry. You're in a room with one other unplayable character who happens to be your wife/partner, and there is a giant kitchen knife
Slash sister.
and a bug.
I'm not being facetious when I say it didn't even occur to me. That never entered my head.
It occurred to me because of how limited things
crazy,
they were to
though.
do. It's like there's
good
a
for you,
drink,
Don't
You're
make- don't-
crazy.
Don't make excuses for yourself.
there's a drink, there's a present, or
You're all
like a
just
dinner and a
suppressing
knife. That's all there is.
a desire, a deep-seated
Nick
desire.
did it like
to murder
3
your
times.
spouses.
Nick tried it in different ways. I did it once, and I felt terrible. Your Honor.
I'm proud of what I did. The ending of that game is way worse than the stabbing.
I didn't do that either. But to be fair, it's because I knew that's what it was leading to.
What, the
So-
banging?
Yeah, the
Yeah,
banging.
right.
I never banged. I didn't stab.
At
Who
one
stabbed their wife?
Then
There.
Oh yeah, with their dick. Okay, cool. No, we'll leave all that in. Okay, Gus. Your most disappointing game of 2021.
One of the two I picked was Call of Duty Vanguard. I don't have a lot to bring to the table here because of how little I played this game, because of how disappointing I found it in the initial couple of hours of the campaign that I did not complete. I found it disappointing, and the limited hours I put into the multiplayer. But I'm a big COD fan. I've liked every iteration all the way through, and I found nothing very enticing in this title that took me through. Obviously, going back to a World War II era is always tricky after playing in a modern setting. Or
What you're looking for is boring.
it's not that it's boring, it's just that it's always, you have to kind of find the excitement in what they can add to it. And it's hard when there's an era that there weren't really scopes and attachments to weapons and high energy vehicle chase scenes. It's like it always feels a little bit forced. So that's what I got in the campaign. I think it was trying something ambitious with the sort of motley crew of the first Special Forces team, but it just didn't lean hard enough into being really over the top and crazy in the way that, not crazy I should say, but in the way that the Battlefield did its cool vignette stories. It was this, they all just kind of followed each other around, and you got you did get these vignette moments with them, but nothing was as powerful, I think, as Battlefield managed to be. The zombies I had the most fun with, which is not a great sign, because I usually find the zombies is the thing I come to last.
Love a wave mode, though.
I do love a wave mode. Love a wave mode. So, look, the fact that the zombies was the most exciting thing says a lot. The multiplayer I think I'd done my dash with COD. The previous one had been so good that I just was fatigued, and it really hadn't brought anything new to the table apart from maybe like a new mode that you followed a circle round in that I tried once or twice, and it just didn't do it for me.
I mean, when you put it like that,
I know. It's not a great
sounds
sell.
awful.
It's not a good sales pitch. And yeah, I think especially the fact that basically COD have their Modern Warfare, they have their old World War 1 and 2, or their World War series, and they have Black Ops, which plays in this cool, different era. If you're going to do something with a bit of a step back in time, I think find an interesting era, find something that hasn't been done to death, and that's why I think the Black Ops series, for all their flaws, are far more engaging and just far more fun. In the way they tell stories, in their mixing up of technology and retroness and that kind of vibe. And
Is Cold War a Black Ops story?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry. Cold War. And
Vanguard was heaps better than Cold War, campaign-wise.
I disagree.
Oh, it's so much better.
Yeah.
Fight to the death.
Yeah. To be fair, I haven't fully finished the campaign, but it was just one of those things that I was having fun in that other campaign. This one, I was just doing things I'd done so often and not very originally, landing in D-Day and parachuting in and doing all that kind of stuff. Nothing really jumped out at me to go like, this is them putting their stamp on it. But you played through the whole campaign, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
It had like the fact that all the individual characters as part of this crew had something special that they could do, meant that every time you jumped between them, like at least it felt like the next mission was not only different because it was a different setting, it was different because this is one of these missions where I'm stealthier and I can slip around stuff.
Sniping stuff was the highlight. That was fantastic, but I wasn't getting it out of the other.
The berserker mode for the pilot guy was like pretty underwhelming.
Yeah. It's not that it was doing anything terribly wrong. It just didn't do anything to say this is a COD you really want to get into.
And also, I played so much COD this year. And I was really excited until they announced it was World War II. I was so excited for the next one. And I'm the same. They launched with so many maps for the multiplayer. They had 20 maps, a really good pipeline of content. I wonder if I would have found it as disappointing as I do if Halo hadn't come out and I was still playing the multiplayer. I think that it just got so eaten by Halo that it's I'm both disappointed in... Because I had fun with the multiplayer for the sort of week and a half that I was playing, but I'm disappointed that... I'm almost more disappointed that I'm not playing it than I am disappointed in the multiplayer of the game.
Sure,
it's more that I'm I wish that I was playing that, but instead I'm playing a much better shooter this year. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think just sort of to cap it all off, it stylistically didn't do anything that really... It just felt very muted, and as World War II games are...
When did it come out?
It was a desaturated time.
It was.
A month and a half ago?
Yeah.
November.
They're always
They'd
November
get
releases.
better at staggering their releases. I know everyone wants to do the pre-Christmas release, but
Yeah, it felt...
think about how many games get eaten away by other better games coming out on top of them.
The thing is, COD, in theory, that was supposed to be COD's... COD has November every year.
Yeah.
Right,
So it's just
okay.
always coming out there. There's not a Battlefield every year. There hasn't been a Halo in like 6 years.
Yeah.
So it's like the other two games came in, and then Battlefield, and then Halo launched a month early. So
That's
completely
right.
just dominated
And
the
their
other two
their
as well.
turnaround from announcement to release is famously very short.
always
So
tight.
it's like,
Yeah,
that's
okay.
kind of a thing that does pick up momentum and leads you going, oh, quick, you learn everything about that game in a month and a half, and then it drops. So it didn't do anything that had me excited in the lead up. I played a little bit of the beta and that like King of the Hill mode, which is just, again, they all felt like new things they were adding that were very last minute in terms of what additions can we put in here to make it stand out from any other COD we've played. And
Yeah.
they were, I don't know, they were small and they did not draw me back to play more, and it's disappointing.
There you go. Well, that is the category. Pete, if 12 minutes is the poster child for the most disappointing game in 2021, then your pick is like the incest love child of the poster child of 2020.
Which pick are we doing? Are we doing the show?
No, you're doing
Okay, yeah, cool.
yours.
GTA Trilogy Remastered was a flop. It's a flop of an
More than a
execution.
flop. Like, it is a disaster.
They are
I don't think it's a
scrambling hard to
disaster.
make it.
I think
They stopped selling it, Pete.
no,
Why do you always back these games that the platforms
actually-
sell? It's first was Cyberpunk, and now it's this. Every game of the year, you're like, you know what? The game that can't be legally bought anymore, that's my game.
I'll finish it, and then
It's back out. It was gone. It was off the store for like 24 hours.
I also heard that the famous flesh wall was in the original.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Oh, was
Right.
it?
Yeah.
I saw that and I was like, how
Well,
did this happen? And everyone was like, oh no, that's old.
You'll tell
That
it's
was always
because
there.
this was literally the original game code. It was like it wasn't a rebuild. It wasn't. It
Yeah,
was
it was
port.
a-
It was a port. It was
Facelift.
A
Yeah.
studio came in and just took everything. They accidentally left the hot coffee mod in San Andreas. The thing that Rockstar were famously sued for leaving buried in the code. When they handed this across to that studio,
I don't think I know this. Tell me.
so yeah, that thing that just you think they would wipe from any form of GTA or any development.
Wait, you don't know what hot coffee is?
No, I want the context.
What?
You don't know what hot coffee is?
No.
You might. You just
You
wind up
will
forgetting the
remember.
name of it.
Yeah.
It was there was a sex mini game in San Andreas that was left in the code that the developers worked on. That was like at the end of a successful date, you could have sex with your partner with like a button pressing mini
Pump
game.
prompts.
Yeah.
That was pretty much like shown with the avatars, and they kind of made it in the way that I think they do. It's like, well, they make it, and then they're like, maybe this will get censored, maybe this will get changed, and before release, they were like, no, we're taking it out. So, but they just
But
left
was
it in
just
the code.
was still
hidden
there,
in there.
They left it
Yeah,
in the
wow.
code. People eventually uncovered it. It found it. Then they got in a lot of trouble for basically selling that game.
Anyway, that's
in
not
there.
really what this is about.
No,
That
but
is
I appreciate
This is
the
gonna be a
context.
But it's in
I
the
didn't
code.
know.
It's in
And
the
other
code
people,
that-
I'm sure, appreciate it.
Meaning that this was such a hack job in terms of it was literally just
Yeah.
take that code.
It was
and
just
make
so
it
That was
work.
still in there?
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow.
The problem with this was that it felt rushed and had zero love put into it. It still
And they
was
charged full price
despite
for it.
whatever that glitch was.
Right? It was full
like-
price as well, wasn't it?
I think it was like $50 for the three of them.
It was
That's
a
not bad.
medium price for 3.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was
yeah.
like a full price one game cost, and you got 3 games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I don't think it was overpriced. It was overpriced for what they ended up putting out, but like if it had been what people hoped it was, it
Of
was
like a
really good
proper,
value
respectful remaster.
purchase, yeah.
Yeah.
It's still like I don't know.
It's still functional, and you found fun.
It's functional and is like legitimately on PC at least the best way to play these games. The better frame rate, better better rendering. The graphically like not necessarily an upgrade,
Yeah.
a side grade, definitely a different style. But I think works for GTA 3 and Vice City. It's a little less fitting.
I like
in
the
San
style.
Andreas.
Yeah, I like the
Right,
choice
yeah.
they made.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people didn't. I'm with you. I kind of like this sort of caricaturized thing. It looks like what they look like on the box art from
Yeah.
these.
Yeah.
But yeah, as you said, San Andreas, it does not play as the nostalgia doesn't feel as fun to.
Yeah, and like all GTAs are satirical and tongue in cheek and stuff, but the mobster vibe of 3 and Vice City just for some reason feels more like a cartoon. You know, like it's cartoon
Yeah, right.
violence.
It's
as
kind of more
opposed to-
hyperbole. Like,
Yeah.
Exactly. Whereas San Andreas is a much more
Whacking
gritty,
someone after
gritty,
pasta is funny, but a drive-by in Harlem is not as hilarious.
Yeah, it's more of like a gritty LA kind of story.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It doesn't look as
I wonder how
suited.
far away we are from being able to like bring any game into the future of like the current graphical capability.
What do you mean?
Like,
Just
I
like
think-
plug code in and the Unreal Engine 5?
Yeah,
fix
like
it?
I would take like Tomb Raider and suddenly make her look as good as today's.
I mean, that's what
Today's
modders do,
life.
and that's what they've done with the old
That's
ones.
magic.
I feel,
Yeah.
I feel like it's less to do with that. And it's
I don't
more
think
how
there's
these
any
games-
one button fix for them.
It's more how these games feel to play. They can dress them up and make them. Modders can make them look like Cyberpunk, and then you go to play it, and there's the walk cycle, the lock-on effects, the
Yeah,
driving
yeah.
physics. It's like that's what I found was the most jarring when I thought I can be forgiving on this.
But yeah, so ultimately, I wish this had been remade in the GTA 5
Totally.
engine.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
just,
right.
And because all the missions are still hilarious and fun and
It
so
was all
well
the
dressed,
potential
but-
that's been lost.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah,
the thing.
yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
oh, this could have been a slam dunk home run.
Yeah.
Great move for everybody. But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
totally,
Lazy.
totally
It
screwed
was
the pooch.
lazy.
My first choice, I imagine, would be a bit controversial because lots of people I know really like this game, but it's Kenna Bridge of Spirits. And it's disappointing to me because I was really excited for this game and I just felt nothing for it, which is such a shame. I didn't really click with the combat.
this is your gameplay, just standing, in
Just
front of
standing
me.
there.
Really?
This
I didn't like the combat particularly. I didn't like the puzzle solving. I didn't like the world that I was in. Everyone was talking about how gorgeous it was, and I was like, oh, it looks fine to me. I never really thought that it was this like staggering thing that would that would take me through something that I was like, well, I'm not loving this, but like I can't get over how incredible this looks, so I have to keep playing. It was yeah, I guess textbook disappointing personally for me because I had really high expectations and a lot of people really liked it. And then I sort of just walked away and I just went, oh, I played like 3 hours of it.
I was
just
super
couldn't-
excited to play this, and then I saw other people playing it, and I was like, and I ended up not
Not even trying.
touching it
Yeah.
because once I kind of saw more of it and I sort of got a sense of what it was like, it didn't seem particularly exciting or interesting to me. Can you tell me what were the because I've forgotten what were the like accessibility difficulty settings like?
I can't remember that, but I know when the game came out, the thing was about the difficulty spikes.
Yeah, it's
Well, that's
like
what
hit
I mean,
bosses
'cause
and it
I
just
re-
went
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Because I remember other people saying
Dark
that-
Souls fight.
that, yeah, like it was quite challenging. And
Yeah.
to me, like the game visually, like it's beautiful, but I would say it skews maybe a little younger.
Yeah.
And I would love this to be. I would forgive all of that, lack of uniqueness to it if it was accessible for younger kids.
Oh, if I
Be a
could
really
give this
cool,
to,
like,
in like 2
first
years, if I could
RPG,
give this
yeah.
to Banjo and go like, oh, here's your foray into
Yeah.
fun adventure games.
Yeah.
But he would hit a boss and just
Yeah.
not know what
Which
to do.
is like that would be the one thing that would save it if you had some cool difficulty options that made it playable for youngsters. But I feel like it doesn't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
But you liked it, didn't you?
I played a fair bit of it. I didn't finish it, but I enjoyed what I played, and yeah, it wasn't a perfect game, and it also was like a pretty dated design philosophy.
Right.
There was nothing in it that felt modern. It all felt quite old.
You mentioned there were a lot of just quests of find those things in an area and find a bunch of them using a sort of look for ability, and then
It was
you
more
do
just
that
really
in
linear
Prince of
traversal
Persia.
Yeah,
of
yeah,
the,
yeah.
the
Yeah.
world.
Who's the developer and what had they done?
Ember
before?
Labs, and they'd done animations.
It was an animation.
Okay.
Yeah,
yeah.
So
Alright.
which
They-
is
A bit of sort of lack of experience.
They
and
did
all.
the
totally. It's
Oh,
the
that's
fir-
right,
The
and the
first game
par-
I've ever made.
The parry thing had this weird half-second delay thing, and that
Yeah,
was tough
yeah,
to time. So
yeah.
Anyway, disappointing. I'm totally up to see what they do next because I think that there were tons of good ideas here. It just felt like, I think you're right, that like it also just didn't have that one standout thing.
Yeah.
It felt like lots of things that you've seen in other places, not done as well as in those other places.
Yeah.
And with a story that I was just kind of like,
They did. I think Ember Labs won at the Game Awards Indie Game of the Year with this as well. So
Interesting.
beat out a lot of things with this. so.
ridiculous.
That's strange.
I mean, I don't think it's strange.
encouraging
It's
for
it's
them.
definitely a technical marvel.
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, it's very dated in all of its design. So.
Yeah.
And it's almost like to play into everything we're talking about today. the fact that Nick, I can share the sort of disappointment because like something like GTA, it's fun. It's almost there's a bit of fun in how much it got wrong. Whereas like the disappointment you get from something like this, which just looks like it has so much potential and then plays so it's not an absolute car crash. And it's just this like, oh, it's just doing nothing. It's just like it's making me feel just empty.
And particularly because
like,
there was a long time where we hadn't had anything that was like big showcasey stuff on the PlayStation 5. It was like there was a real drought there, and so then
I mean, you're right. It could come back a little bit to the fact that PlayStation didn't have a lot on their launch slate this year and put a lot of marketing behind Kenner. In the same way that No Man's Sky suffered a similar fate of being disappointing because
it got overly hyped.
It got overly
there are
promoted.
promises being made from high or like in that production material.
And I think that there's an inherent promise in how much you see something. Even more than they didn't tell us something that didn't exist. They just showed us it so much that we were like, well, this must be
this
a
must be
AAA
good because
title.
you're all backing it. All right. This is your shared one.
Yeah, I feel like Peter should go first because I feel like you'll have more to say about the reason why it was disappointing for you, and then mine is kind of a supplement.
Okay. Battlefield 2042 was not the shooter we were looking for, unfortunately. It works in a lot of ways, but, DICE have had this, for a long time, this process of releasing these games well before they're cooked. and I'm kind of just sick of raw Battlefield, Every time I'm so in love with Battlefield as a brand, but I can't remember the last time I truly loved playing Battlefield. It was like the last time I truly loved playing Battlefield was Bad Company 2.
Bad Company 2.
I really enjoyed Battlefield 1's campaign, like story missions. And I quite enjoyed playing Battlefield 1's multiplayer because
good. I'm still playing.
The maps are great.
Yep.
Fun ways to fun weapons for those maps, and the old school planes and stuff makes sense in that space. Horses, it was just the spectacle of it was really fun.
There's also a weight to it. I played a lot of one, and that weight is just totally done away with in this modern setting and this engine, how it plays. It just
weight is in physicality.
Yeah, physicality of the moving, the vehicles, everything. Yes, it is older and slow.
I mean, look at this jump.
It's like obviously no horses are doing that, but it just feels like there's such a weight to how you play that game, and then this just feels so floaty and strange. And I know it has to add modern things, grapples, faster vehicles, all that kind of stuff, but it does start to get, I don't know, arcadey in the way that Battlefield has always felt. Even Battlefield 3 is always.
I still think the gunplay is really fun, but every time I went to play, there was a different bug. There's just something. Every time I loaded into a game, it was like, oh, now my loadouts don't work.
Yeah.
I can't pick up a different gun. I can't shoot. I'm marked as an enemy, and my teammates are shooting me, but I'm not dying because it's team fire. But I can't interact with anything. Just every time was something just weird.
Yeah. That's a weird thing because I love the robot dog. When you deploy the robot dog, you had to bring up that menu and then immediately just click your mouse, and that overrided the the bug that prevented you from deploying the dog. Because every time I would go, I would try to bring it out, and it wouldn't give me my deployment circle. But Reese was like, oh, so try doing the menu and then just really quickly hitting your mouse button and then
perfect fix.
And then it'll fix it. And I was like, oh my gosh, yeah. So I was slowly learning weird little things to kind of overcome
work around all the bugs.
Yeah. So for me, ultimately disappointing because I'm sick of letting DICE get away with such shitty launches. And maybe
I don't know if
will
they're
be
getting away with
6
this
months.
one. I feel
they're
like
not getting. They're not. They're
Yeah,
totally
yeah,
not. The sentiment out there is obviously very negative. And I wish they'd held it for a year. Everyone is playing Halo, which feels brilliant right now. It's still not a perfect game.
I would say it's a very different game to this as well.
Totally, yeah. But I'm someone who plays basically every shooter that lands for a little while at least, and I dropped off this so quickly because it just. Why would I give this the time when something is working over here?
It's a question of what.
But there is totally room for both of those games to be successful because they are different enough, I think. Yeah. So the fact that it's not holding people in it makes me sad.
As you said, if they'd held it for a year, it's like, where does that put it in terms of the public reception versus where it is now? It's come out, it's buggy as there are people playing it, and it's fighting against your Halos and your CODs and everything. It's like, would leaving it for a year have put them in the right position to then actually release it and have the
strong
positive,
release.
have a stronger release. It's like it's the big question mark that you never really know, and it's like I agree in the sense that it's like God, it could have been polished if they'd just sat on it for longer, but they need to get it out. They need people to be talking about this, and
But only for the board.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's not.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like if you look at those big companies, like you look at someone like Ubisoft, as huge as they are, often live or die by the next release. And like Microsoft could sit on Halo for a year because they've just
they
got
can afford to.
billions of dollars sitting there. Like not everyone has that pool. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Battlefield now that Vince Zampella's in charge. And going like, okay, what holistic direction? Because the man isn't capable of making a bad game. So it's like how the expectations on his shoulders to come in and go like, here is the future of Battlefield. Because I think that's the thing, that what it felt like is it launched, and for me, I never really played a lot of Battlefield, but it didn't have an identity, and I think that's really scary in a world where right now, like, you're a battle royale, or you are like a Destiny evolving world, or you are a Halo like hardcore arena shooter style thing. This came out and it was like, it doesn't really feel like it knows what it wants to be for the next 5 years. It kind of just wants to be Battlefield
again,
and not Battlefield 5. That was the other. It's like, we're not Battlefield 5, but we don't know what else we are. And it's like, well, if you don't have the answer for that, like, why would I invest?
Yeah, it was. I think so. For me, I chose this because I really enjoyed playing this. I think.
Yeah, you kept playing it for weeks.
I've been playing it a lot, and the only reason why I stopped playing it was because everyone else stopped playing it. So
Is that why it's disappointing?
yeah, actually, yeah. Like, this was going to be my Battlefield game because I never felt confident enough, and I didn't have like a cool group of friends to play shooters with in the past that I felt like I could really enjoy a multiplayer shooter experience with. And over the past couple of years, I've been doing that a lot more, and I was like excited to get into this. And it was the perfect kind of shooter for me because I felt like it had these two modes that really complemented each other. The big conquest, open world, chaos, tornado, rocket mode, where there's so much happening that I had the opportunity to kind of be relatively successful because people were so caught up in all of the stuff that's going on, as opposed to like a very twitchy kind of
Definitely for all the people watching the rocket.
yeah.
Stabs and shoots.
Shoot them in the back.
There you
That's
go.
what I'm saying. And I had a great time doing that. And while like the vehicles were kind of frustrating, like there'd be times when we just spawn on a point and we would just get hit by one of those hovercraft things over and over and over again. And yes, that was annoying. But like for the most part, you know, I was having a good time because I didn't really spend enough time in any of the other battlefields to compare it to those and be like, this is severely lacking. And I really liked Hazard Zone because I was like, this is so the antithesis of Conquest, and I'm really enjoying how tense and strategic it is, and I find it really thrilling and exciting. And I was sad that I was robbed of my experience because the game was so unsatisfying for everybody else, and so I didn't get to have the experience that I wanted. And so I'm sad. And like, even when I was playing Conquest, if I left global chat on, there'd be people that would just be like shitting on it the whole time. But they'd be like level 60. So it's like,
Clearly
you're
it's
still playing.
that-
like, you
that's
must be
classic
getting
Battlefield.
something out of it, like that. But they're still just so angry while they're playing. They're being like, hate this stupid game. Load into another one, but I hate it.
That's the most Battlefield experience you had.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Come join us in Halo Land. The water's
Like,
hardcore.
I will, but it's
The water's bot matches. The water
it
is
is
like
not the same.
It's not the same.
Really
No,
not the
it's
same. And I will totally play Halo if everyone else is playing Halo, but
I know what you mean. I totally know what
it's
you
not
mean.
the experience I'm looking for.
Yeah, you're looking
Totally.
for a
Fair
thing,
enough.
and
Yep.
that is disappointing. Gus, what else disappointed you?
Another one that got me was from one of my favorite consoles, the Switch, was Mario Golf Super Rush, which just was a big swing and a miss, which is a baseball.
Hey!
But I'll use it for
So
golf.
you had high hopes for
golf?
this?
I've done it.
Okay, fair enough. I've done that too.
It was a double bogey.
I have high hopes for all Nintendo. I was just answering the question that Seth had originally before you made that cracker of a joke, Nick. Real hole in one, that joke. I have decent hopes for all Mario and Nintendo-based sport outings. I look forward to them and what they might do. That is just a fun
I have
little-
high hopes for every Nintendo, Mario, sport down to sports.
Golf.
out.
Tennis, golf, baseball, Olympics.
You narrowed a broad
I did.
compliment
There's
down
a,
to
there's a few.
three titles.
They keep coming back to them. Bring back Super Strikers, I say. Like
yeah.
I was about to say,
soccer
yeah.
ones. Heaps of fun. And this was them going back to the golf course, and really the thing they added to it was this rush mode, which was an attempt to kind of like add some action, add some silly Nintendo character personality to it all. I found it really underdelivered in terms of as a mechanic. They sold it as this like, you all tee off and you all rush there, bouncing on each other's heads and using power-ups and all this kind of stuff. It really never capitalized
never
on that.
did anything. It was
Everyone,
so
the course
weird.
is so big, everyone kind of runs around like keeping a distance from everyone's social distances as they run up the course. And
it
any
also-
of your
it also
powers are just to run a bit faster.
Yeah,
It's
and it
usually
gave that thing of like, all right, this isn't compelling enough to do, but you've
You have
made
to
this
do it.
most of your game.
Correct.
Like most of the game is not golf. Most of the game is running to golf.
Yeah, and then it suffers on top of that for some things like, I think I got to the point where, like any Nintendo game, it starts off very easy, and so every course you're finishing, you're getting to the hole way before everyone else, and I'm pretty sure, I don't know if you could turn it off, you have to wait for everyone else to finish the hole as well, which was just watching the AI
it's
kind of
so
like Toad run up the back and try and catch
Fucking
up.
Toad.
So that was crap. Then they sold it with an adventure mode, and I have a real soft spot for like any like little sporting game where it's like, oh, you
Campaign
can
your way
have
through
a
to being the
campaign.
legend.
Yeah.
And I
Grow
really
as a person and an athlete.
Totally. It was this weird fucking ghost town of a, like, this soulless little town. You wake up, your character that you pick and play as, which could be your Mii, which you know I love my Miis, you wake up and Birdo from Mario 2 is like your sort of foster mum who, like, you're in this house with some opponents. And again, it was like, you had to do some really clunky things in terms of the RPG light aspect, which was like, go and talk to someone who would just make you run drills, then run home. It's like, looks like you need some sleep. Head on home now. It's like, oh, maybe something's going to happen.
Yeah.
You would run home, you would run into the house, you would run upstairs, no one to talk to, you would go into your room, you would sleep, you would wake up, you would go downstairs, someone would say, you better hit the course, you would run out of the village, and someone would say, cool, let's run some more drills. I'm like, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
Like, it was this weird,
Do video game characters actually have to sleep?
Yeah, it was a strange. I mean, I'm picking on something small, but it really broke what it made me not push
but that's
on
the
through that
thing, and
adventure
It's
mode.
putting you through pointless busy
Oh,
work.
Yeah,
very much so.
particularly when you
Which
just go like
Nintendo
you're a
does
golf
a
game.
lot, to be fair.
Yeah, you're a golf game. Like, just let me play the golf. Everything else should just be completely optional.
Yep.
Let me play the golf.
I wonder
And
if it was received well critically in Japan.
I think it was. Look, it was received fairly
I wonder
critically.
this received well critically in Japan.
So that was disappointing. The golf mechanics on their own, if you turned off all the Super Rush stuff, if you did all that, was fine, but it definitely made it more boring. The courses, the first ones you get as well,
they're all boring.
were so boring. Like, you're in the Mushroom Kingdom, go nuts with it. Like, play on all the weird terrains and places you could have.
Totally.
And the first four you
it
do
should be
are
like,
like
fantasy mini golf.
Totally.
Yes.
Yeah.
The first four
Yeah,
you
it's
do are like different shades of green. It is literally that. There's
and then
like
there's
a
the
windy
cliff one,
canyon.
and the
that's-
cliffs are just annoying.
By the time most people got to there, they have supported this. They've given it, there's extra characters you might want to play as. Wiggler, anyone? Anyone want to play as Wiggler? Anyone know who Wiggler is?
Who's Wiggler?
Wiggler's the yellow caterpillar with a flower on its head.
Oh, yeah.
That famous, memorable character. Not that great. The only redeeming thing was that that sort of arena mode where it's like you
battle
race
thing.
at battle golf to
Yep.
capture holes. But there was one course of that when I played at this one here, and it was like fun to do maybe twice. So yeah, really disappointing because they had the rush mode seemed like a cool idea to really change up the game. It did not play on that, and adventure mode was anemically fleshed out. It was terrible. So yeah,
I agree.
sad. I'll have to just wait for my next Mario Nintendo-based niche sport adventure RPG game.
And you won't be as expectant of brilliance next time.
Mario
You'll be
Curling Champions.
I mean, that sounds good.
I'll play that.
Yeah, they're gonna put it, but that's the problem. The golf was good. It was just everything else in the way
Yeah,
with it
yeah.
was annoying. And then to round us out, my game is New World is shit. New World is an incredibly boring game that is just so empty of life and thought and ideas and I at the Game Awards there was what is it? Amazon's next game.
Newer world.
They announced. Well, they played a trailer for a new Amazon game, Lost Ark.
Yep.
And I looked at it and I was like, it's New World. Like it's just the same. Like you're doing the same thing. This is you can get me like a beret and a fancy corn pipe by 9 o'clock at night at my house. You cannot make video games. And this was just so, I love MMOs. I want to have an MMO that I can dip in and out of. I know you were really excited for this. I liked the idea of the more action-y focused combat stuff and not just like a huge hotkey bar of tons of abilities. I liked the setting of it. Graphically, it looks really beautiful. I like all the town stuff. And then you just get in there. The faction stuff is interesting.
Cool
and you just get in there and you just go, oh, it's just the same fetch quest as in every MMO.
Yeah.
Everything looks exactly the same. You never go to new areas. There's nothing unique about the quest design and the world design. And it's just empty. It's not even empty calories. It's just empty.
Yeah, I feel like I obviously played a lot more of this, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. I think from the get-go, it was like an understanding that the quests were very disappointing and very kind of stock standard MMO. And I think our answer for that was that they had more of a PvP focus for this, and then kind of realized, I don't know if it was in playtesting or at what point they were like, oh, people actually aren't going to want to play an MMO that is PvP focused. We better put some more fleshed out PvE stuff in here. And then the quest ended up just being like, you have to search through 10 crates at every single village across this map. But I think for me, it served a purpose in that because I love open world fantasy games and I love like just meaningless harvesting of
Menial?
menial.
Menial.
Meaningless.
Menial,
Also
menial
meaningless.
labor or meaningless?
I love manual
labor?
meaning labor.
You just like collecting things.
Yeah, I like picking flowers, is what I'm trying to say.
I like picking
and the setting was so traditional fantasy and so like beautiful kind of European. I just, after a long day of doing stuff, I would load up this game and I would just feel my whole body just start to relax as I looked at the sun streaming through these trees.
Is that how you
That
felt
was
waiting
me.
in a queue?
Well, that was me too, but I realized that was actually me just falling asleep.
And I loved the combat for an MMO. That's the one thing that turns me off MMOs is, that hotkey thing. I find that so boring and uninteresting, but the combat was really fun. I loved kind of playing with the different weapons. The faction stuff was really interesting, but it definitely seemed to fall apart once the player base started falling off because initially we had a really...
What is happening here? It's just this dot
Watching
that
someone
getting
run
bigger and
approach-
bigger.
Yeah.
It's like an Austin Powers scene. Sorry.
I think I forgot what
Player
I was,
base fell off.
Yeah. So the faction stuff was really interesting. It was fun watching our faction try to kind of get control of certain territories because the benefit of controlling a territory was quite high, like in terms of all of the extra resources that you could use. People would set different tax limits on being able to do certain things. It's interesting from like a governing perspective, and then
What a sentence.
All right, George Lucas.
I want to know about...
well, it is. And then and it was cool to see those kind of battles and the wars sort of play out. And then all of a sudden, I got really busy and I didn't log in for like a month or so, and then I logged back in, and it was my faction owned the entire map.
Yeah, right.
And I was like, what happened here? I was like, did we just get really awesome, or did everyone else just stop playing?
Governed the shit out of this.
Yeah. And the answer was everyone else just stopped playing, which was
Yeah,
pretty upsetting. And I think a lot of the servers are merging and stuff now. But I'm definitely going to go back to it. I don't know how it can recover from such a core element of their game being the part that is a problem.
Were you disappointed at all? Sorry, just to bring it back to the category. Like, were you disappointed in it at all playing it from the expectation of what it was setting up
From
to
the
be?
quests, totally.
Yeah, okay, right.
Because
So,
the story is interesting, and the kind of the mystery of the world and what was there before, and as I'm playing through the main quests, I'm legitimately interested in that storyline. But the quests are so boring that you tend to kind of start skimming over stuff that should be fun to learn about because you just you know that they're just going to get to the end of their speech and then make you go search through 10 more crates.
If they do turn it around, and it sounds like content is the biggest problem, the lack of content.
Totally.
If they do turn it around, it wouldn't be the first time an MMO has
Found its feet again.
come from
Final
really
Fantasy
negative
14.
reception. Final Fantasy 14 obviously had a Realm
Huge.
Reborn.
Yeah.
And Elder Scrolls Online as well had a pretty wet release.
Yep,
Like it was.
totally. Oh yeah, it was pretty anemic.
It
as well.
wasn't. It wasn't negative, but it was
Yeah.
like I don't really see a reason to play this, and has found quite a good niche for itself, and is pretty successful for ZeniMax. So it's,
I think it would have to be an expansion, and it would have to be a killer story.
Oh,
and
totally.
have
It would
to be
it would need to be an MMO. Yeah. We
Yeah.
need to actually put the things
snap.
in there. Yeah. For context, October peak players 913,000. November 357,000. Last 30 days 206,000, which is huge for a paid game. You
Yeah.
cannot play this game for free. So 700,000 people bought this game and are no longer playing it, and that's pretty huge.
Yeah, that's a big
so
drop-off.
yeah. So those are our disappointing games of the year, cancelled after release. 2021's most disappointing games. Let us know what your most disappointing games are in the comments below or on the Discord, and we'll be back with another award category some other time.
maybe tomorrow. Maybe this is the last one.
This might be, yeah. I think maybe
do end
game of the
this.
year and then this.
Maybe. Yeah.
Oh, we're doing that now.
We're doing that.